Well, hello there. Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am joined by my man on the run, Ryan.
I feel like this chill in the air has left me breathless.
Breathless, like the 1983 Neo-Noir romantic thriller Breathless?
What?
Neo-Noir romantic thriller.
Oh, we do a podcast about films. I thought we were doing a podcast about the weather. There is only really one Breathless, and it's French. And there's this bastardized sequel that came out in the 80s.
This is not a sequel.
Remake, sorry.
Correct.
That came out in the 1980s. Actually, I'm going to take that back. It's not that bad. It's actually pretty decent.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I remember back when I was like one of those pretentious film guys. I was just like, fuck that remake. Can't be as good as À BOUT DE SOUFLE.
I love that you said that in the past tense, but I just watched À BOUT DE SOUFLE the other day. I hadn't seen it before, and I really liked it. This is different. This is very 80s.
It's very 80s, and it would really struggle to capture the energy of that original film, because that original film from 1960 is it's very much within the time capsule of like the zeitgeist of cinema at the time, though. Like it really captured a creative energy that was really coming about. Like it is the flagship film of the French New Wave. So, and it spurred so many inspirational callbacks as well. I mean, Arthur Penn watched Breathless or Bout de Souffle, sorry, and made Bonnie and Clyde on the same principle, basically. So,
yeah, that 1960 film, if you don't know, was directed by Godard, and it was written by Godard and Francois Truffaut. And
yes,
À Bout de Souffle literally translates
the poster boys of the Nouvelle Vague.
Yeah.
So
the real boys.
The actual boys. So
the title of this translated is actually the closest you can get, not like Man Bites Dog, but this means out of breath, breathless, same. So.
Okay. Yeah, no. Very literal. Yeah, no. I think it's difficult to make the comparisons, but I haven't seen À Bout de Souffle in like many years. But it does. The Breathless 83, as I've decided to call it, is it does a very good job of modernizing it, at least in the 80s standard. And it has a few kind of Jim McBride-isms as well that I kind of appreciate.
Jim McBride being the director.
Yeah.
Also, we'll just say that this film stars the Richard Gere as Jesse
one and only
Lujak. Oh, Richard Gere is my bread and butter.
Yeah.
And Valerie Kaprinsky as Monica.
Yes.
In this motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
I'll toss the synopsis at you, just in case you don't know. Jesse, a small-time criminal, hightails it to Los Angeles to rendezvous with a French exchange student. Stealing a car and accidentally killing a highway patrolman, he becomes the most wanted fugitive in LA.
Yeah.
And the tagline is, he's the last man on earth any woman needs and every woman wants.
Don't know if it's true.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
Doesn't make sense.
We will dig our fingers and toes into this, like, really deep, but Jesse Lujak is a walking, running, dancing red flag.
He's a fucking human toilet.
He is the worst. He is one of the most annoying people I've ever seen portrayed on film.
Mm-hmm.
I hate him so much, but I also love him because he's chaos incarnate.
He is, yeah. That's one of the McBride-isms that I honker, because it's kind of like it's a little bit like The Big Easy, because Dennis Quaid's in that movie and he's got one fucking accent in that movie, and he is incredibly unlikable. But the thing is like it's not that you're watching and you're like, oh fucking hell, why is he so horrible? He's he's horrible by design. You know,
Yeah.
like in The Big Easy, it's slightly, you know, it's different. It's a crooked cop in New Orleans. So I mean, Quaid is laying it on thick. But the thing is that Richard Gere in this movie, he's laying it on fucking super thick. Like I can't believe it's not butter thick. It's
Yes.
yeah, and the thing is like as annoying as it does end up kind of, you know, his portrayal does end up being kind of annoying. There's still an element of like there's a charismatic element to him which I kind of appreciate, and there's an element of cool about it that's kind of got this 80s sheen all over it, which I kind of appreciate as well. As much as maybe Breathless 83 is a little bit more throwaway than its original incarnation.
Well, we'll definitely figure that out because this was my second viewing of this film and I loved it. The first time I watched it, I liked it. This time I loved it. And I actually want to do a back-to-back, have people come over, do a back-to-back Breathless. But before we talk about that, I want you to tell me about Jim McBride.
Jim McBride. So he's an American screenwriter, producer, and director. Richard Brody of The New Yorker named McBride as one of the 12 greatest living narrative filmmakers.
Damn.
But that comes with a caveat in that he only really likens that level of brevity on the basis of his debut feature, which was a mockumentary called David Holtzman's Diary, and that was the only film that earned him that title. I couldn't find that original article anywhere. There was snippets from an article from the New Yorker for the DVD of the week, which cited Breathless 83. But yeah, I mean, that's fine. You know, I think McBride stuff's interesting. I think it's interesting stuff. I mean, it kind of depends, like, on how much of this stuff he's been. He's still alive now. You know, he's been a filmmaker since the 60s. But really, his debut came out in 67, and that was David Holtzman's Diary. My Girlfriend's Wedding in 1969. Pictures from Life's Other Side from 71. Glenn and Randa from 71. Hot Times from 74. Then we have Breathless in 1983, The Big Easy in 1986, which is hilarious because it's just went from one to the other.
Hell yeah. Great
Balls of Fire from 1986. And, I seem to have written Great Balls of Fire twice. And it's this other version is from 1989. I must have been drunk when I wrote this down. And then Uncovered is like his last feature film, which was in 1994, when really you kind of see more of a focus on TV, pretty much up until 2001 when he was directing episodes of 6 Feet Under. But yeah, as we'd mentioned before, this is the remake of the 1960 Godard Truffaut À Bout de Souffle, where really the original is about an American woman and a French criminal in Paris, where obviously in this version in 83 it is swapped and it's in Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
The nationalities are swapped, I say.
Absolutely.
You know, where it's an American criminal and a French exchange student. So
I don't know. It works. I have so much. I cannot believe how much information I have about this. And I have so much information that ties into things that we love. And I'm very excited to talk about it. I don't even know if we'll talk about the movie. Before I say that, though, I did want to mention that the film was shot by Richard H. Klein, who you will know from such films as Body Heat, Double Impact, and Howard the Duck, amongst other things.
Yeah, I mean, Howard the Duck is a cinematic marvel.
Absolutely.
The way it looks. Yeah, but Body Heat, I mean, it's got that, there's a sweatiness to this. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, Body Heat's a little sexier. I mean,
and
Body
sweatier.
Is sweatier. But this film, you know, as neo-noir erotic thrillers kind of go, because this updated version, obviously, is a lot racier than the original.
Oh yeah, there's no sex in the original.
No, but there's a lot of passion, you know, because it's French. But you know, it's Yeah, I would just say like that original's maybe just got a bit more of a cooler, slicker kind of look to it, but it's black and white. So with this version, it's wild technicolor, very vibrant, a little bit more punky. Punky is probably the word I would use to describe this version of Breathless. And I think if it wasn't so diametrically opposed with like, À Bout de Souffle, which is maybe a little bit more mellow with the way that it conducts itself. Like this is kind of like the Sid and Nancy version of that movie, I would say.
This is the horned up cocaine version of the original.
Yeah, and I think punky, like punk, really kind of characterizes this. It's rockabilly. It has a lot of, and here's the thing: we watched Breathless '83, and I'm like Tarantino's obviously stolen from this, like pinched, like the soundtrack and all sorts. Like this is something that he's just kind of straight out stolen from. But
there's also, I thought about him because there's a really long shot of Monica's feet when she kicks off her high heels and walks through her flat, and I thought about that.
Yeah, there's a thing, and I don't know if this is like, because it's something I enjoy myself, but there's a real accent on the color red that goes through the whole film, which I think is, it's less tropey in '83. It's very tropey now, like to the point where, The Sixth Sense uses the color red. I think I've said this before, as an accent, and it's a little bit trite. A little bit trite. The color red in film is it conjures up a lot of things. And you think about films like, I don't know, Don't Look Now is also another film which uses the color red quite effectively, and Brian De Palma uses it as part of his style.
Hell yeah.
When he lights certain spaces to suggest a transformation in a character by using the color red. So,
well, they wanted the film to look over the top, which they succeeded. They
definitely did, yeah.
Exaggerated colors so it looked like a comic book.
It's very hyper realistic, I would say. It's kind of like bordering on a kind of Takeshi Miike like depiction of reality, where it's so outlandish. It's bordering on just like comical.
It did make me laugh when Jesse first steals that car and drives from Vegas to LA, and he's singing a stupid song, and it's so red. It's so incredibly red. He goes, "Oh, look at that sky."
It's a red sky, but then it cuts to the wide, and it's not that red.
It's not that red.
But he's singing that Jerry Lee Lewis song from the tapes that he's collected from this stolen car. All the driving sequences, for the most part, like when they're in the car, it's all rear projection. For the most part, it's all projection. But it has it has a style to it. Like there's a reason why they're doing things a certain way like that. So,
do you want to hear all of these things I have? I'm so excited. How did this happen?
It'd be weird if I said no.
That's true. Yeah, because I actually have really interesting things to say.
Of course.
Lucky you. A friend of Jim McBride who worked at the Pacific Film Archive in Brooklyn knew Godard. So he called him up as a favor to McBride and asked if they could have permission to remake Breathless. And Godard's like, sure. And just said yes over the phone.
Well, Godard's not going to stifle creativity. That's something that man would never do.
It's actually kind of funny because, it takes a long time to make a film. There's a lot that goes into it. It takes years and years sometimes. Mm-hmm. He had said okay to many different people. He had given permission to several people. So it got a little bit complicated at one point. But
well, I think there's an element of À Bout de Souffle of it being sacred, It's like if you decide, if you think about films that you're like, oh, you wouldn't remake that. and then how much of a travesty some of those remakes become, I think there's an element of, say, filmmakers of the time that would just be like, well, you can't touch that with a barge pole.
Well, McBride was having a really hard time getting onto the next level, and he got a bit of advice that was attach yourself to something that people already are familiar with. Don't start with something new. Get yourself something that people already know and use that to help with your trajectory, which is how this came about.
But I wonder how many of the how many of the general public would have been as aware of A Bout de Souffle.
Fair.
You know what I mean? Like it's very much I wouldn't use the word obscure, but it's a flagship movie from the 1960s that I think a general cinema going audience in the 1980s wouldn't have the same reverence for the creatives and filmmakers who've grown up with that would have.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so,
in terms of casting, Natasha Kinski, when they was originally considered for the role of Monica,
I don't know if she would have been better. She might have been.
I really liked Valerie Kaprinsky.
She's good, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, it's not to kind of throw Natasha like Kinski under the bus, but it's kind of like, yeah, you're replacing, you know, another European with another European.
The thing is that when the film actually got rolling, she was considered to be just slightly older than they were hoping for.
That makes sense.
And oh boy. So Jim McBride originally, this is a roller coaster, okay? Jim McBride originally did not want Richard Gere in the main role. He wanted Robert De Niro. Okay.
That film might have been amazing.
Robert De Niro really liked the script. Okay. He asked McBride to call. He goes, call me in a month. Okay. Then he goes, he calls him. He goes, I need another month, etc., etc. This went on for about 3 months, and De Niro would not make up his mind. Universal Pictures was involved at this point.
Of course.
And they said that in order to get another actor involved, they needed a definitive no from De Niro. And Jim McBride happened to go to school with Martin Scorsese.
Okay.
So they had
to go through Scorsese in order to get a no from De Niro.
Basically. But Scorsese said that De Niro had gained a lot of weight recently, and he wasn't going to give a straight answer. So he just asked him just to decline it.
Wow.
And so when he did...
Because I wonder, what would De Niro have been working on between 82? Like 82? Because Raging Bull came out in 80. Then after Raging Bull, it's King of Comedy, right? And then After Hours comes out in like 83, 84 maybe. So he would have been, well, to say De Niro would have been in inverted commas freed up to do Breathless, but that's some. I would have loved to have seen him do like a kind of slightly more toned down Max fucking Cady or something.
Once Upon a Time in America was 84.
Yeah, but that's a Sergio Leone movie. Like he might have been filming that for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Because that film is huge, absolutely fucking massive. He probably wasn't filming it for 2 years, but that's a real journey doing a movie like that with Sergio Leone. I don't really know, because when did King of Comedy come out?
Yeah, 82.
Yeah, so he would have done that in 81. So yeah, because then I think after King of Comedy, I think After Hours was Scorsese's next movie. See that kind of that gets me excited to the point where I'm like, because the film would be a completely different beast.
Oh.
But yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Aye.
Well, when De Niro declined, Universal dropped the picture. So now they're in trouble. Okay. Then they went to John Travolta. And then they went to Al Pacino.
Oof.
But nobody wanted to work with McBride because he was an unknown.
Yeah.
So at this point, McBride's agent told him, just take the writing credit. No one wanted to work with him, so he just agreed because he's like, well, I want this to get made. This will look good on my resume. Let's just do that.
Just wonder who would direct it at that point.
Well, Orion picked up the picture because Richard Gere signed on.
Right.
So we went back to Richard Gere.
Okay.
And, am I going to say his name wrong?
This is how movies work, though. Like,
crazy.
This is it. Yeah, this is how they work.
I'm not sure if I'm going to say his surname properly, but it's Frank Roden. I don't think it's Rodan, but Frank Roden, who directed Quadrophenia.
Yeah, Frank Roden.
He signed on to direct, but then he left because he got another project that he preferred, which, if the timeline works out, it was a film called The Lords of Discipline.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so now Orion suggested McBride be signed back
That's
on.
a lot of names
There's
banding
more.
around here.
It's not even close to done.
Okay.
But it's a roller coaster, right? McBride gets signed back on, but Richard Gere did not want to work with him. So Richard Gere gave a list of people to the studio that he would work with. And then Michael Mann was hired.
Wow.
And rewrote the entire script.
Ugh.
And then he abandoned the project to work on The Keep.
Okay. Right.
So then Orion...
What did Michael Mann did Manhunter before then, right? Then it was The Keep.
Yeah.
Because this
I'm
was
saying
when...
yes, but I'm not double
Well, this was
you.
Michael Mann before he was like the Michael Mann that he became, basically.
Right.
Because obviously Heat or LA Takedown, whatever, was like the turning point of the Michael Mann saga. So
yeah, Thief was in 81, and then he did The Keep in 83.
Yeah. And then Manhunter must have been after that, right?
86.
86, right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, well, Thief's fucking...
So good.
Yeah, top tier. Yeah. Okay. And then he just abandons the fucking thing.
Yep.
A Michael Mann Breathless would be very interesting.
Rewrote
Certainly
the script, and it's hard to know. I actually don't know which one, if they used some of his, if they used all of his script, or like...
But Michael Mann would have been with Richard Gere.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So then Orion goes back for McBride. And Richard Gere was like, no way, I'm not working with this man. But luckily, McBride also knew Paul Schrader. He's like, fuck you, Gere. I'm going to fucking get you. So
wow.
We all know that they worked together on American Gigolo.
Yeah.
So McBride called Schrader, asked him to call Gere, and just be like, please just meet with me. He reluctantly agreed. McBride flies to New York, meets with Richard Gere. It did not go well. He was super cagey, didn't want to look him in the eye, didn't want to do it. They had more meetings. None of them went well.
Okay.
So then McBride goes to a bookstore in New York and just finds a photo book of Jerry Lee Lewis, who, as you know in the film, is Jesse Lujak's hero in the film.
Yeah, he's like his idol.
And for whatever reason, it just clicked. It just clicked for Gere, and he signed on and agreed to work with McBride. Boom.
Actors, right?
Film. Movie
Fucking
magic.
actors. Yeah, I mean this is how at least the business was back then. The business is pretty much the same, except it's because we've seen it in recent years. It's like actors who you remember from very popular movies who have lost their appeal getting a resurgence by doing obscure slightly more arty pictures. Like obviously I think Demi Moore, Pamela Anderson, doing slightly more
Brendan Fraser,
yeah.
That's a different one though, because there was a sexual assault allegation there, and then he left. He
left,
he
didn't
do anything wrong.
Understandably. No, but his resurgence was that he was brought back because he was always good. Yeah, because he was
everyone's always good. It's
they're
just
always good, but
everyone,
I think they didn't feel like they got their they're just rewards from the industry because they were pigeonholed in certain roles, and Demi Moore is definitely one of those. And obviously she's been doing really well with The Substance, but yes, it's found this weird kind of 180 turnaround now that back when, certainly the 80s, because the 70s was when they were able to experiment and do all sorts of different things, and they were able to, that's where stars were made, was during the 70s, and they did a lot of very obscure things in the 70s. And obviously in the 80s, it was like, well, we need to fucking make some money doing this stuff. So, that's how it's kind of changed and flipped on its head a little bit more. But yeah, this is how the business always was. You needed a big star to a project in order for things to even get off the ground. So
I just love researching a story, and then you find out my boy Shrades is involved, and you're like, thanks, bud.
Yes. And Paul Schrader obviously had earned his stripes and stuff by this point anyway, because American Gigolo was a huge fucking success. Basically made Richard Gere a star, so.
And he goes, you know what? Let me do it again. Let me take my penis out more times.
It's difficult to imagine this film without Richard Gere in it. As much as I'm not the biggest fan of the character he's portraying, which I think is very deliberate, it'd be very difficult for me to not see Richard Gere in this role.
Yeah. If you
but
counted
Robert De Niro does excite me. I do wonder what that fucking film would have been like if that was the case.
I don't know if he would have been as annoying as of a character. I think it would have been a little. I don't know if he can be that. Can he be that silly? I know he's funny and he can be silly, but
I mean, he's done De Niro's done a lot of comedy stuff. I mean, High Mom's definitely that. He's done King of Comedies.
But his comedy
is
very straight.
Oh yeah, it's
not silly. It's not goofy.
No, it's I wouldn't even say it's deadpan, but yeah, it's the comedy comes from the fact that he's incredibly serious,
right?
So
it'd be a lot. I don't know. It'd be a lot darker, probably. It might be more like the original.
Potentially.
Because the guy's not funny in the original. He's not goofy.
No, he's not goofy.
He's just doing crimes and stealing money from babes.
Yeah, but then it's well, what's the movie you're making at that point? If it's just it's like a Gus Van Sant Psycho, you're just well, we have the original. Why the fuck am I going to bother watching this if it's just the same thing, just modernized?
Have fun. Give me some beautiful neon, some dumb clothes. Oh, speaking of the clothes, McBride was a little bit afraid of the costume designer because he didn't understand why the main character would be wearing such dumb clothes that were not in fashion. So McBride had his wife come in and talk to him about the costumes. And apparently it worked. And she got him to change the style to how McBride kind of envisioned it. He was like, I don't want this guy wearing stuff that's not traditionally fashionable.
Well, he's also meant to be, because he's not like a traditional criminal. Criminals don't make a spectacle of themselves, which is kind of what Jesse is a bit about. He's a bit of a showboat. He definitely thinks he's cooler than he actually is.
Yeah.
And he really does make a little bit of a spectacle of himself. And he's a bit of a hothead. He's just an asshole criminal. He's a fucking, like I said, he's a toilet. He's just an asshole criminal. And you do kind of wrestle a little bit with his depiction of whether or not there's any level of charm to him, or if is he just fucking annoying.
There are long bits of time where you just want Monica to escape. You go, why is she going with this guy? He's awful. And then there's just these tiny little bits where you're like, that is really sexy, or that is very interesting, or that's very charming.
Or, yeah, you realize what she maybe sees in the guy to stick around, because I started losing a lot of respect for her, because I was just kind of like, I think you're smarter than this.
Yeah.
And you're hanging out with this fucking numbnut.
Yeah. Yeah. They had a good chemistry. You know, I don't know. It is tough because you see her resist. And then with a genuine dicking, she's like all in. She really is committed.
But I mean, that's maybe the point of the movie, like within the storytelling, that I find the most difficult to like grasp is that aspect of like, what does she find appealing about this guy who seemingly is just he's just a one night stand of someone that she met in Vegas.
Right.
And you're kind of like, well, he's followed her all this way and he's an annoying prick. He's showboating, he's running his fucking mouth. And you're just kind of like, but what does he see in him? Because like you've met people like Jesse in your life, and he's annoying, but you keep him around because he's funny. And I'm just kind of like, I find it a little bit hard to believe. Like, it cuts through the cool a fair amount.
This is the difference, I think. One of the biggest differences between the original and the remake is where Richard Gere's character, I think he genuinely cares for Monica, and he has this obsession with her, and he just really does want to be with her. And in the original, I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's just, he's interested. I don't think he is that committed to the whole thing. I mean, a lot of these beats are similar. Are you mad because I left without saying goodbye? The pregnancy, instead of going to Mexico, they were going to go to Rome in the original. Like, all these things are quite similar, except, like in the original, when she's talking about the baby, he's furious. And in this one, he's like, oh, my muchacho, we'll take a baby to Mexico.
Yeah. It's...
Yeah. He's annoying. He's super annoying.
Yeah, the one thing I kind of, the one thing I do like about this remake is that he has killed an officer and he has been committing crimes this entire time. He has to go to Mexico. So he has to get across the border. So that, to me, is a little better than, obviously, in the original, where it's just kind of like, well, do you think the cops aren't going to follow you to Rome? Like, they obviously are.
I do find it's a leap. I just don't know how they knew it was him in Vegas that stole that particular car to drive to LA. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. And who knew that he stole the car?
The only person who might have known that was the girl, and maybe they quizzed the girl. Because it's Vegas, there's cameras everywhere, even in the 1980s. Yeah, of course there was.
Right.
Of course there was. Because, it was pretty much, I mean, it's still at that point, it was still run by the mob. And they don't mess around. They didn't mess around over there.
You're like, Laura, haven't you seen Casino?
Have you not seen Casino? Well, what was Casino, the 90s? No, Casino was the 70s and the 80s.
In the film?
Yeah, in the movie, yeah. 70s and the 80s.
Huh.
Yeah, because then Vegas technically got, inverted commas, cleaned up. So.
Love me some Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been, so.
The co-writer for the script, Kit Carson, was the one to thank for the inclusion of the Silver Surfer. Big comic book fan, and it was his idea to add that stuff into the script.
It's a valuable addition, and again, it's another one of those things where I'm just like, Tarantino's a fucking thief, because this is obviously where he gets all that shit from, all the pop culture-y references and stuff. But this, like, to me, the Silver Surfer stuff is the stuff that makes the Jesse character endearing. Like, it makes him relatable to a certain degree because he has higher aspirations for himself, and it's obvious that ever since he was a child, he has enjoyed reading The Silver Surfer. And there's other films and stuff out there. I mean, certainly there's this sequence in Crimson Tide where they talk about the Silver Surfer, which is the Kirby Silver Surfer, and they have that giant argument and stuff in there. And again, that's stuff that's been pulled from Tarantino, who also did some uncredited work on the Crimson Tide stuff, which I feel like he's stolen directly from American Gigolo.
Well, shit.
Yes, but I like what they do with it in American. I like what they do. I said American Gigolo. I like what they've done with it in Breathless because it feels contemporary for the time. Like, it feels like, oh, this is kind of like a fresh thing that no one's really done, where they've kind of referenced like a lot of pop culture-y stuff, certainly in comic books, because, comic books, at least for me, like, it was like poison. No one's like, you're a comic book nerd? It's not like today, where everyone, like, fucking titty streamers on Twitch are just like, oh my god, I love One Piece. It's like, no, bitch, it wasn't yours to begin with. It was ours. We never got laid. That was the thing.
Well, Jesse Lujack does.
That guy fucks.
He really does.
He does.
He does. I gotta tell you, I was explaining the differences in how they kissed in films in the 60s versus how they do it in the 80s, and boy, oh boy.
It's uncomfortable in the 60s.
They kick it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
So let's chat about this first penis scene, which comes in at a beautiful 11 minutes and 50 seconds into the film.
Yes.
So this is right after Jesse kills a cop on accident and breaks into Monica's apartment in LA.
Right,
and he is taking a shower and being definitely one of the most annoying human beings in the world. He's in the shower, he's singing, he's got Ferris Bueller shower hair going on. He's
got a total disregard for anyone's personal property in their space.
Oh, he's taking pictures with her camera. He's ripping up pictures of her with other men. And he's just looking through all of her stuff in her apartment.
Pretty much, yeah.
But he's singing in the shower, turns around, and as you can imagine as a man in the shower, he's not wearing any clothes.
He's like stomping and dancing. He's like obviously fully naked in the shower because that makes sense.
But he's also huge. He's taller than the shower head.
It's a tiny fucking shower. We've had I've had showers that have been like that where you have to crouch down to do that. Luckily we don't have that now. But certainly I've seen that happen before.
Well, it's an interesting scene and a good introduction to how annoying he's going to continue to be for the rest of the film.
Also, it's like it really reflects his I don't give a fuck attitude. Because here's the thing, like, he's in the shower and the shower guard is open. Now, for most people who don't have their shower guard open, the reason you close it is so you don't fucking soak your bathroom floor.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason why you do that. It's not purely because of privacy. Because if you're in there by yourself, you wouldn't, obviously, it doesn't matter if you have it closed or not. But the reason you have it closed is so you don't fucking get water all over the place. So again, it shows his blatant disregard for what he's doing. Also, again, he's making a spectacle of himself because this isn't obviously the only time that he breaks into her place and she comes back and he's just fucking there.
Yes.
And he's taking his clothes off or he's like lying in her bed, and he's like cleaning his teeth with her toothbrush because it's not his toothbrush.
So gross.
And, he's dancing in the shower. He's got the door open. He's making a right fucking mess. And I think this scene reflects his character relatively quite well. Because he's just fucking awful.
Yeah.
He's just an awful piece of shit, to be honest.
My second biggest fear, the first one being attacked in the shower. Okay. Second is coming home and there's someone else in the shower.
Well, you know
that I wouldn't expect.
You know how you rectify a situation like that, though.
What? How?
Get yourself a shower knife.
Oh, a good old shower knife.
Shower machete. Yeah. I wouldn't say shower gun, because that's not ideal. Unless you get a particular gun, let's say, from Tommy Lee Jones, that movie U.S. Marshals, with Robert Downey Jr. in it. He gives Robert Downey Jr. a gun. It's like a Glock or something like that. He's like, this fucking thing will shoot underwater.
Okay, so I need a super powerful shower gun.
No, you just need to get a Glock, and you'll be fine.
I'm not interested in any firearms whatsoever. I'm defenseless.
I mean, it's only one step removed from having a Bluetooth speaker, and we already have one of them. Not only do I have a Bluetooth speaker, I have a Bluetooth speaker that is also a holder for my beer.
This is true. This is true. Now, I could toss
and
that.
I used it earlier today.
An attacker's head. I could toss it right at their skull, and maybe I can get away.
I don't think you're not a fan of confrontation, so I think having any sort of weaponry that you have to use at any point is probably not advisable.
I was in a commercial once where I pepper sprayed someone in the face. I could get shower pepper spray.
You could shower bear spray.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get one that's legal in your state. You know.
Could go to the Army Navy Superstore and buy any sort of thing like that.
The Army Surplus Store.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I did my commercial.
Okay, I mean, potentially.
I'm a TV star.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of things in Florida that are definitely illegal. Many different things that are illegal in the state of Florida, but
illegal fireworks that will come down and hit you in the head on 12:01 on New Year's.
Yeah, before obviously we get too sidetracked. Yeah, Laura got smacked in the head as we were trying to leave because our neighbors had crazy mortars going off. And
I got hit by a rogue piece of mortar.
And blood was gushing everywhere.
Yeah.
It was a very, very memorable New Year.
Could I have used a couple of stitches on New Year's? Maybe. But you know what? I've got friends that took care of me, and it's all good.
Well, I think irrespective of the fact of whether or not you needed those stitches on New Year's night, you would have still needed those stitches on New Year's Day morning if it was as bad as it was, and it wasn't.
Okay, good. That's true. Yeah. I'm fine.
That's how wounds usually work.
Okay, I'm safe now.
Yeah.
So let's move on to when Jesse puts that dirty plunger on that guy's head, and so he's looking for money, right? He's Jesse Lujek. He's always looking for money.
What do you mean he puts that dirty...
Okay.
He uses the
They
plunger...
go in this...
Well, he uses the plunger to lock the bathroom door.
Is that what he did? I thought he put it on his head.
No, he uses it to lock the bathroom door, and then he puts his hand in and grabs his bag.
Okay.
Because that's when the guy's like, occupado, because he's in a bar.
It was really good.
Yeah.
So they're in this bar, and the thing that really stuck out to me is what really connected me to Monica's character is that he promised her food. Okay. He goes, get anything you want off the menu. He takes a plate of tacos from the server, which she didn't think was a problem, ? It's definitely a problem. She was serving someone.
Very odd.
The food.
She's just like, huh, it's just Jesse or Jack or whatever the fuck he calls himself at whatever particular time. Just now here he comes.
He promised her tacos, and he stole all this money, so he obviously has to leave. And
it looks like it's a good sized taco.
She goes, wait, Jesse, my tacos. And she goes back and grabs a taco, and then they walk out to the convertible. And I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, do not get between me or Monica when it comes to a snack. Don't.
I could really do with some tacos. Like some
tacos
good tacos. Yeah. I fucking love a sack of tacos.
They're okay.
A bin bag of tacos.
I want to jump into Penis Scene Part 2.
Yes.
53 minutes, 29 seconds into the movie. This is a really, if I may say so, quite an erotic part of the film. They did a good job, okay?
Yeah, they did. They did. This is where the modernizing from the original concept really kind of comes in, though.
Absolutely.
It's like this is where it's like this is how you get the arses on the seats in 1983. Is you
absolutely
really get some naked eroticism going on.
I know that I said that Richard Gere is my bread and butter, but no. 80s and early 90s erotic thrillers are my bread and butter. They are what gives me life. Okay? I love this.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever said that Richard Gere was your bread and butter.
I said something earlier, but it's just because he gets naked a lot.
It was definitely incorrect.
I appreciate him getting naked, that's all. So these two are in the throes of foreplay. It is really going on. Things are happening. And then the man that she's been seeing, not even on the side, the man she's just been seeing in her life, because Jessie was a 1, 2, 3 night stand on holiday, she's been sleeping with her professor. Whatever. It's legal. It's fine.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean,
they're adults.
I tell you, wink, wink, improve your grades. You know.
Well, whatever you got to do.
Yeah,
but
they did it. They did it in Animal House with Donald Sutherland. He was in there. Yeah, he was just like, do you want to come back to my office?
Well, I've told you about, there was a French, he was my Renaissance literature professor at university.
Uh-oh, what are you about to tell me?
I've told you the story before, but he was attractive, but he smoked, and so he smelled bad. So I wasn't that interested, but I saw him out at a bar one night, and he goes, and he was French, by the way. He goes, shouldn't you be studying? And I was like,
fuck.
Maybe I should be. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to sleep with this guy? And then I got scared, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. And I asked a friend who was a professor, and he goes, no, there's no reason that you couldn't have done that.
No, of course not.
And I thought,
of course not.
Damn, missed my chance.
Damn. Yeah, would have got
I would have just smelled bad.
Yeah, well, you would have got his nicotine fingers probably near your puss.
That's disgusting. That is disgusting.
His yellow stained, like,
Ryan,
inside index finger to his middle finger.
Profesh. Okay, we're talking about the most erotic part of this film. I did not touch that professor. Unlike Monica in Breathless. Okay, so her professor calls her, and Jessie is a walking red flag, gets so jealous.
He does,
he
yeah.
He cannot deal with the fact that she's been seeing someone else, but he's not with her. He does not own her. She is an individual human being who can do whatever she wants.
Also, Jesse's not shown any level of charm as well towards her at this point. Like, he has not really elicited any level of, like, attractiveness towards her.
Like, what are you going to give me? What do you add to my life, or anything?
At one point, he just says, like, completely out of the blue, because he goes, "Show me your tits."
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Like, why did you do that? And it's almost as if she has this unbridled power just by pure minimalism to kind of like clean him up a little bit, like kind of get him a little bit more on the straight, because she's very good at being able to kind of just kind of like class him up a little bit. So kind of like take the dirt bag out of him a little bit, kind of get him in the shower, clean him up, and then kind of make him a little bit more sparkly clean. Because he comes across a little bit more like a scumbag, but he's a little bit more gentlemanly around her.
Yeah, she does.
But she obviously likes a bad boy. I mean, that's it. I mean, she likes a bad boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the professor calls, he wants to just delete the message. She goes, no, I need that message, because she is in school. She's studying architecture.
Of course.
She wants to have a career. This girl is young. Okay, she's just starting her life. And need I mention, yes, I do, that their age gap is 13 years. Okay?
Yeah.
She's 19 when they filmed this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. But yeah, I mean, also like the introduction of him into her life, like again, is like during an exam while she's at school, and he's the fucking biggest dick that's
He's
ever
horrible, but it's also
awful.
funny. But he's horrible. I hate him so much.
Yeah.
When the answering machine goes, she says, "I need to keep this message," and he pulls the answering machine out of the wall, looks her in the eyes, and then just tosses it out the window.
Yeah. I do like the fact that like he tosses it, there's a period of silence.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to her, and then you hear it hitting the tarmac and like sliding across the tarmac as if it's like, yep, here you go. You're a few floors up.
I thought it hit the pool.
But it sounded like it hits the ground and it just slides across the tarmac, which I think is actually funnier than hearing it go splash into the pool.
She is rightfully furious. I mean, at that moment, I go, "You absolute maniac! You're just destroying my stuff. Leave."
Well, he's desperately trying to insert himself into her life when it seems painfully obvious to the rest of us that she's not deemed the relationship that they've had as important as he has.
Correct.
And I kind of like, I wonder how in the writing do we get to a point where that switch really happens, and it kind of does by way of sex.
Yes.
Really? I mean, this is kind of how it kind of takes a big switch.
Right, because we're still in the penis scene here. So this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, is just before the sex, is when she goes into the shower. She's furious because he's thrown her answering machine out the window.
Yeah.
He's being awful.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of is pacing. He's thinking about it. And then he starts singing Suspicious Minds by Elvis. And
Elvis who?
Presley.
Oh, they meant Costello.
Not Costello.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Be a very different version.
It'd be awesome if it was, though.
He basically kicks open, he takes all of his clothes off, kicks the door open, and he just starts singing to her in the shower, opens the shower, and she's like, "Oh," loves it. She loves it. And you know what?
Yeah.
So did I. So did I. I would have been like, "You know what? I do forgive you right now."
Well, how would you feel if I did that?
I would love it.
Yeah, you would.
If you just kick the door, well, I would scream because I'm scared in the shower.
Because that's the thing. It's like, oh, if I did it, it'd be great. But it's just,
we can't go on.
It's like, why would you undervalue yourself to be like, oh yeah, I'll do this cheap trick that this fucking idiot does, and she's just like, oh my god, that's so good.
Because she knows she's going to get the proper boning that he had promised her all this time, and she does get it.
Yeah.
She gets it good.
Well, it's because that professor doesn't obviously know what he's doing. I mean, that's obviously what it is. Yeah.
That's a shame. So
well, that's the thing. Like, they have that. They have sex in the shower, and it's comedic. Because I think, like, we all learned this from Adrian Lynn, is that, like, watching people fucking is kind of, it's uncomfortable. So you got to make it funny.
Yeah,
and
fun.
This is kind of how this is that they break the shower doors and stuff like that.
It's one of those showers where you've got it's a tub, but you've got the kind of the slidey doors attached. So
yeah,
she's like got her hands on the top.
Like most shower tub combos, that's usually what they're like.
In front of a curtain, you've got a slidey glass door. But yeah, she puts her feet up against the door, and I think to myself, no. And then it becomes unhinged, and I'm like, there's going to be glass everywhere. It didn't break, but very scary.
No,
you got to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when Jesse Lujak comes into your house.
They were probably not made of glass, though. They're probably just made of plastic.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So then they have a lot of sweaty lovemaking, because this is the 80s, and this is how we do things in the 80s. Sweaty.
This is how you get it done. Also, this is LA, and it's during a...
And they were in the pool, I guess.
Yeah, they were in the pool. And
the shower.
And a heat wave, There's all sorts of things, yeah. So.
And penis, boom. Sex penis.
Yeah, so they're writhing around on the bed, and he's like he turns around, and you see it, and it's in a wide shot. All of these penis scenes have been in wides because that's the way to do it proper. But yeah, good old piece of love making, rolling around and stuff like that. The thing that like I found, I don't want to say like preposterous as if I'm like some kind of classy guy, because I'm not, but it's like she goes to like tidy herself up or something, or she's like gonna clean herself, and he's like, no, don't you dare, because I want you to smell like we've been fucking.
Well, because she's gonna go see the professor.
Yeah, aye. So she's got that stank on.
She loved it,
and it's like,
she absolutely loved it.
To be honest, I kind of loved it too. That was kind of just
you
like,
guys, this is a top tier erotic scene from the 80s. It's great.
It's something I did not expect.
Yeah.
Because I can't even remember if I ever saw Breathless. But as a near 40-year-old man, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's some stuff right there.
Well, regarding the love scenes in the film, Valerie Kaprinsky said that they were not just acting. She said it was wonderful working with Richard. He gives you everything to react to. We were not acting the love scenes. They were half real. You can't say you act only when they say action. I think it shows in the movie. If you don't really feel like doing it, it shows. When she auditioned, she thought she did a horrible job originally. But then she was asked back for a screen test. Okay. So, in this 5-minute screen test, which was filmed, of course, she and Richard Gere lied naked on a bed. And Richard Gere didn't need to be naked, but he wanted to make her feel comfortable, right? Okay. As they were speaking, Richard Gere starts kissing her way kind of up her body, and only the director, cinematographer, and the camera operator were in the room. The sound man was holding the boom mic from behind a partition. Okay. So anyway, I just think it's very amusing to where Richard Gere's like, I don't need to be naked, but I'm going to be. And he specifically wanted, in the casting of Monica's character, someone that he believed that he would want to sleep with. So he wanted someone that he found attractive enough to want to bang. And there were rumors, of course, as there are when you have a film like this, that they were involved. But they've denied it. But she has also said that she was really, really into it.
I mean, you kind of have to. I mean, the chemistry's pretty apparent. Like, I don't think it's like...
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't feel stilted. No. Like, it's very much there. So I think they've done a good job of making sure that they had that. Because as much as like Richard Gere's like, I'm not fucking doing this movie with this director, like he definitely throws himself into it when it's like he has to. And it's I think the relationship is effective. Now, do I believe the relationship from the story element? I'm just like, well, yeah, I don't really fully understand that, but I do understand that they have a chemistry and it does work on the screen. But yeah, no, it's they did a good job with this. This is something that you don't see very often, you know, with intimacy coordinators and stuff like that now. Like, you don't really see it that often. Oh my
gosh, imagine that. I mean, he sits her up on her drafting desk. The things that he's doing. An intimacy coordinator, I'm not sure if they would be able to handle this. You know, her previous work before this film, and she's quite young, they were all mostly softcore pornographic films.
Banging.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Great.
Tombola. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine.
And then he reads her Silver Surfer in the nude. It was wonderful.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, that's it. I mean, get someone wet with some Silver Surfer talk. Like, that's kind of crazy.
And there's a whole scene of him like arguing with a child about how the Silver Surfer is really cool.
Again, it's that big pop culture-y like
power,
scene thing. It's
he's
great.
Got the power cosmic. And he's trying to come up with, you know, correlations between the Silver Surfer and his own life. He goes, if I were the
Yes.
Silver Surfer, I'd get out of there.
Yeah.
Got the power cosmic.
It's great.
Gotta
Yeah,
get
it's
out.
awesome. It's really awesome. I think the Silver Surfer as a character is kind of boring, but yeah, no, I think that stuff's pretty cool. And again, it's like, yeah, it's like Tarantino's a dirty thief. A real thief.
Is there anything else you want to bring up about the film?
The only other thing I would maybe point out is that, like, there's that guy who works that junkyard who's really throating that lolly, like that ice lolly that he's thinking.
You can see the outline of his D&B.
His schlong, yeah, from his, like, yeah, from his shorts, which is, like, it's something, because he's got tiny little shorts on. And I do like the, you know, because you brought up the costume design and stuff like that, the self-referential stuff. Like that last guy that helps him out and gets him that money, kind of turns around to him and he goes, he's like, how are you meant to be, like, you know, inconspicuous when you dress like an asshole?
Yeah.
Which I thought was very funny.
It was great.
Yeah. But, like, there's just, like, there's a lot of stuff to like in it, but, like, there's certain kind of key elements in the film that I just don't, like, appreciate as much as maybe some others do, so.
I thought you were going to bring up James Hong, who's in the film as the kind of corner store cashier.
Yeah.
He's in so many things.
He's
in
the Asian,
Airplane, Blade Runner.
Yeah, the Asian convenience store worker who has the weird fucking t-shirt. It's like an Alcatraz, like, convict t-shirt with, like, a bow tie thing, like, put on it with, like, numbers and stuff. Very fucking odd. And he looks ridiculous, but he's always pleasant to see in anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to like. There's a lot of stuff to kind of like but, you know, overall it gives you a relatively decent package.
Ayo.
Yeah.
In terms of the box office, so the film grossed over $19 million at the box office, and it had a budget of $7.5 million. So it's pretty successful. But for whatever reason, McBride was saying that it wasn't terribly successful. It was more successful in France, which he thought was hilarious, than it was in the US.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what that's about, but it was quite successful in the US.
To 1980 standards, obviously, because it's a pretty, yeah. I mean, I would say it's like it's a popcorny erotic thriller, you know, and it uses Bout de Souffle as like a good structure, you know, to try and get people in, to get arses on the seats and stuff.
Genuinely
like that.
An awesome double feature. I think they work well together, and I think it's a lot of fun, and you won't find it redundant. You'll find, you know, little hints of this and that, and there are some lines that are pulled directly from the original, but it works. I think it works.
Potentially. I still think, obviously, the original is far superior.
I don't know. They're so different. And so, anyway, but we can get in. You can tell me about that when you read the film.
I guess it's different.
Maybe just rate it on its own merits, Ryan. On its own merits.
Oh no, I've done that. I've definitely done that. Yeah, I've not been like, oh, it's a fucking 2 because I'm a fucking cinephile because I'm so fucking great. You know.
Okay.
Obviously want the rest of the filmy people, the A24ers, to really appreciate what I think about classic cinema.
No, this is the Janus people. This is the Criterion people you're talking to here.
Oh, the oldies.
That's right.
Yeah, the granddaddies.
Well, I'm going to go into my ratings. I'm going to start first in terms of visibility and context. I always get confused when I write these down and I look at them when we're talking. I'm going to give it a 4. I don't know if the visibility is really quite there, but I think the frequency helps with that, and also the context brings it way up for me, because you have a female character who is getting naked quite a bit, and it is really well balanced. I think it is actually perfectly balanced between the two characters in terms of how much they get nude, and in it just makes sense in terms of what they're doing. The showering, the sex. It's all there, and I think that we're really lucky to have Richard Gere. So,
Yeah, I would maybe say a 4. But the only reason I give it a 4 is mostly because of how the two scenes really help to characterize this individual. And I think that's something, as opposed to like, because you can look at a scene like this and you'd be like, well, obviously they would be naked if they're having sex, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. But because of the way that this character behaves and what he's behaving like, it makes more sense that he would be in this state to help characterize the sort of person that he is. So that's why I give it a 4, because it's probably, out of a lot of the things that we've obviously covered, it does a very good job of helping to characterize exactly who this person is.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Because he's not a shy person. He has no fear.
No.
He has no well, he doesn't have that many worries.
No, I also think like if you have no fear, you're either a sociopath or a fool. And I think he's kind of more on the foolish side.
Definitely a bit of both.
Yeah.
Definitely a bit of both. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, why he would never be shy or nervous or afraid. No. He is fully himself, good or bad, all of the time. And he's very comfortable with himself, incredibly comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. In terms of the film, just for how I felt about it, I gave it a 4. When I first watched it, I gave it a 3. I really liked it. I just think it's really fun. The colors are vibrant. They're interesting. Neon. The costumes are strange. The Silver Surfer is interesting. And I really do like having seen À BOUT DE SOUFLE first, and then kind of coming into this and just seeing the hints and the homages, but just how different they were able to make a very similar story be and make it weird and turn it on its head and just have a bit of fun with it. And I really, really had a great time with it. And what about you, Ryan?
I gave it 3.5 because I think it's cool, but it is slightly annoying and it's a little irritating. And I don't believe the central relationship is as strong as it maybe should be. But there's a lot more to like than dislike in this film. And certainly I think it's really a hallmark of 80s cinema, at least for the time. And I do think that it does some very clever pop culture-y things that really kind of make it stand out a little bit more. I think it's very well written. I think it's a really good adaptation of something that would effectively be regarded as like sacrilege in the cinema community. But yeah, I think they've done as the best that they could do for the time that they made it, basically.
It is different how you have the female character in the original didn't have a lot of knowledge about his crimes. And he would be like, oh, I'll be with you in 5 minutes. And she would go away. And this one, she is involved. She is an accessory. She is there and she is helping him.
Yeah.
So it is quite different. Like, she is along for the ride. And the other one, she's like, wait a second. This is not going to be good for me. I'd better do something about it.
Well, yeah, just it kind of becomes a little bit more Bonnie and Clyde at that point.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Or probably more to the point, like Badlands. Badlands is probably a better example of what Breathless 83 is trying to do.
But it's really heckin' fun, and I think it's a great movie. Really a lot of fun.
I mean, as flicks go, like in comparison to things we've seen recently, I think Breathless is a good romp for an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah.
There we go. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I'm so happy to be able to do another 80s erotic thriller. Yeah. My favorite. Mm-hmm. And coming to you from Mexico. Co. I have been Laura.
Ryan's tired. He's a tired boy.
Love is the power supreme. Goodbye.